From the depth of the vault, this is, eventually, Eerie's Vault Live, your number one stream for the uncanny, the weird, and the unexplained. Good evening, everybody. Oh, yes. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time it is, wherever in the world you may be. And we do have listeners from around the world. Welcome to the show. This is Eerie's Vault Live, and I am your host, Eerie. We may or may not be opening up the phone lines shortly. I'll explain my gremlin situation to you in a moment. So if you want to be on the show, maybe you can, maybe you can't. We'll find out soon. But before all that, let's start, shall we, with a shout out to my wonderful, wonderful patrons. That's David Morris, Ian Lewis, Ramona Craighill, Stu Graham, Brian Henderson, Jerry Shelton, Ryan, Gaynor Smith, John Douglas, Bizjadish 143, Baby with a Laser, Rudolph, Hooker, Red Ruth, that's Paul Red Ruth rather, Pill Collins, Greg Russell, Iron Bug, Vincent Hegeland, Ben Hurl, Emu Cat, Adam Mitchell, Ginger Ninja, Fasten's Finest, Keith Say, Steadbot, Aaron Osborne, Melv, Heather Maund Jones, Todd Van Voris, Chris Slee, Andrew Dewey, Gregory, Catman, Natalie Leach even, Amanda McNeil, Pamela Pepper, that is. Sorry, I saw an Arkwright clip earlier today. It's an infectious thing, isn't it? Buster Piles is with us, is one of the patrons. Sawboss, Barock Lobster, EJ Osborne, Zach T, and Craig McClellan. Those guys join the ever-growing roster of Patreon supporters. I thank each and every one of you. All of you. Yes, we're a little late this evening. Possibly the weather has something to do with it. I don't know. But at approximately 8:55 p.m. I was ready to go. I was set. I always have about 30 minutes of preparation and testing the phone system and all of that, just to make sure it works. And it did. And then the computer wanted to do an update. It froze. So I reset the thing. And it then took until now to really kick back into life, as it were. So we may have audio gremlins tonight. I've had to resynchronize all the settings for all the different audio sources, of which there are many. I don't know if anybody's used OBS in the chat to broadcast live, but it's not very good at remembering what its inputs and outputs are supposed to be. So when we get to the phone call times, we'll see if we can actually hear people. I may have to do some rapid reconstructing as we go along. How is everybody on this very, very stormy evening? One hopes you are well. We've got Pill Collins in the chat. Hello, Pill. Purple Pipkin, hello there. Yes, I had the wrong screen up at the beginning of the broadcast there. One of my tests. Blazer, worry no longer. We're on. Kazam, good evening, Kazam. Kai Stannard says, hello from the United Kingdom. Hello there. Theme Queen UK. Welcome, Theme Queen, to the show. Liz S is with us. Good evening, Eerie and everyone. Hello, Liz. Paul is here. That's Rudolph. Evening, Paul. William Kane. Good evening, William. Aching Plums is with us. Hi, folks. How are you all? Yes, we're not too bad personally. But not so much can be said for my computer, it seems. But we shall see how things go, shall we not? Harry Webb. Hello, Harry. Welcome. Greg. Hello from LA. Welcome, Greg. Thank you for joining us. James Glass. Good evening, James. Buster Piles, the man, international man of underpants. I think I keep calling you that. I must figure out something else for you. You actually feature in one of my patrons-only scripts because of some of the phraseology that I'm using, and I can just imagine Buster's comments if it was a live video. So that's probably going to go out next week for the patrons at some point. Who else do we have here? We've got, I think that's everyone tonight. Apologies if I have missed you out. Speaking of patrons, I hope you noticed that there's been my own sort of follow-up on the Cannock Chase video from last week, where I give you my honest opinion on the many, many mysteries of the chase, as it were. I've also done a similar one about tonight's video, which is the underground and the mysteries of caves and old coal mines and all that kind of thing. I've done a follow-up on that, and Buster, you'll understand why I'm sort of saying this about your comments when I tell you that there's quite a big section in that about knockers, which Tommy knockers, of course, but I'm sure Buster knows what I mean. Yes, and of course, talking about mining, there's lots of shafts involved and all that kind of things. So, the Mad Axeman has just joined us and says, hello from Cannock. Good Lord. Johnny, hello, Johnny. Welcome. Welcome to the show. Yes. So, what shall we do next? Let's have some eerie news. This from lifescience.com. 240 million year old warrior crocodile, ancestor from Pangaea, had plated armor, and it looked just like a dinosaur. Yes, this armor-plated lizard is an ancestor of modern crocodiles and lived just before the dinosaurs took over Earth. Researchers, those damned dashed researchers, they're always up to something. Researchers have unearthed a giant warrior lizard that stalked Brazil 240 million years ago in the Triassic period, just before the dawn of the dinosaurs. The discovery fills in gaps in our understanding of the time before the dinosaurs dominated Earth, and further highlights the links between what is now Africa and South America. The armor-plated reptile resembles a dinosaur, but is actually an ancestor of modern crocodiles. Scientists, good Lord, I'm going to get another Latin name thrown at me here. Scientists have called the creature Tyrannosuchus bellator, which is a mixture of Greek, Latin, and indigenous Brazilian language Guarani, meaning pointed-tooth warrior crocodile. The team revealed its findings in a study published in the Journal of Systematic Paleontology on the 13th of November. Its discovery helps illuminate a key moment in the history of life, the period that preceded the rise of the dinosaurs. Study leader, author Rodrigo Tempomula, a paleontologist at the Federal University of Santa Maria in Brazil, said in a statement. T. bellator, that's good, yes. Yes, reduce that long name to a T, belongs to Pseudosuchia, or Suchia, I don't know how to say that word. It was about 7.9 feet, that's just just about 2.5 meters long, and weighed 130 pounds, just 60 kilograms. I don't know what that is in stones. Somebody tell me. It had a long neck and a thin jaw full of sharp teeth. Very few of these type of sauroids, that sounds painful, have been found in South America. The team found the partial skeleton, including the lower jaw, backbone, and pelvis, during an excavation in May in the Dona Francisca municipality in Brazil. The reptile's back was also covered in bony plates called osteoderms, which modern crocodiles do have. It was an active predator, but despite its relatively large size, it was far from the largest hunter of its time, with the same ecosystem home to giants as big as 23 feet long. Despite the diversity of pseudosuchians, they remain poorly understood. Fossils of some of their lineages, such as poposauroids, are extremely rare in the fossil record. Well, anybody out there got poposauroids? That used to happen to people when they sat on cold walls for too long, I think. On Earth.com, another dinosaur thing here. Colossal dinosaur measuring 92 feet long challenges the limits of imagination. Certainly does. Scientists report the discovery of a giant sauropod dinosaur, here we go again, Tongnanglong zimingi. Late Jurassic giant from southwestern China, estimated at up to 92 feet long. It was found in the Chongqing Tongnan district, part of the Sichuan Basin, and comes from rocks laid down about 147 million years ago. It's known from a holotype, which is the single name-bearing reference specimen, with 3 back vertebrae, 6 tail vertebrae, a shoulder girdle, and hind limb parts. The bones were unearthed at a construction site and later studied in detail. The team places Tongnanglong within Mamenchisauridae, a family of long-necked sauropods. I need to start reading these things before I read them live. A family of long-necked sauropods with especially elongated necks. The bones show telltale internal air spaces and complex ridges that help lighten and brace the skeleton. Members of this group share long, heavy-duty neck vertebrae and air-filled bone tissues that reduce weight. To put the find in context, the Su Ning Formation also yielded Qijianglong guoka, another long-necked form from nearby beds, and the original paper emphasized that Qijianglong broadened the late Jurassic diversity in this basin. I do love dinosaur stuff, but, reading Chinese names is, well, as you can tell, quite difficult for me. So, how about bats? So, this from Earth.com. Let's scan this, see if there's any dodgy names in here. It looks like we're all right. So, bats have been found to glow, that is, bright green in ultraviolet light. Yes. Night hides more than soundless wings, says Earth.com, and high-pitched calls, it hides colour, too. Researchers, those pesky researchers again, from the University of Georgia, have now found that some North American bats glow bright green under ultraviolet light. The finding may look like a party trick, but it could reveal something deeper about how bats evolved and communicate. Scientists at the Warnell School of Forestry and Natural Resources studied 60 museum specimens. The specimens belonged to 6 species. Big brown bats. That's a good name. Good solid name for a bat species, is that? Yes. What should we call this one, Professor Steve? What's it look like? Well, it's big. Yeah. What colour is it? It's brown. Yeah. And this is bats, right? Yes, it's a bat, yeah. Call it a big brown bat. Yes. That sounds good enough for me. Eastern red bats, Seminole bats, southeastern myotes, grey bats, another one named by Professor Stephen, and Brazilian free-tailed bats, not to be confused with the Mexican I don't know, the opposite of free-tailed bats. That could have been a good joke, but I ran out of steam, frankly, at the end of it. Every specimen glowed green when exposed to ultraviolet rays. The glow appeared mostly on the wings, hind limbs, and tail membranes. The measured wavelength of the light ranged from 520 to 552 nanometers, the same colour range our eyes register as green. It's called photoluminescence, and it happens when molecules absorb ultraviolet light and release it at a longer wavelength that we can see. Plants, insects, and marine creatures do this often. Mammals, not so much. The new study changes that assumption. The team used ultraviolet lamps, special filters, and a light measurement tool to separate true photoluminescence from reflected light. The result was clear. The green light was coming from the bats themselves. Now, this is one of those curiously odd things, isn't it, where you think to yourself, who decided, I'm going to shine some ultraviolet lights on some bats today. We haven't done that for a while. Let's see what happens. What's the trigger for these sort of things? I've seen a cricket bat, says Aching Plums. Yes, very good. And Buster says scorpions show us blue under infrared. Well, there you go. That I didn't know either. Stephen, hello Stephen, has seen a giant bat. Have you seen those enormous fruit bats? Do you know, I love a fruit bat. They're like little dogs with wings. And I could be friends with a fruit bat, I think. A giant one, at least. They're amazing, I think. From the Scottish Sun, that reputable rag, we have this headline, Captain's Log. It's not about constipation in elderly Star Trek actors. Captain's Log. Inside Scotland's X-Files, as thousands of pages of alien and ghost encounters are set to be archived. So some of Scotland's spookiest stories are set to be preserved in the National Archives. Now, this will be good for you people who like to do a bit of research, because the National Archives is full already of declassified MOD, Ministry of Defence documentation. So this is just going to add to that mountain of stuff to sift through. Paranormal investigator Ron Halliday has struck a deal to have his collection of records preserved. Ron Halliday, eh? We must make a note to speak to Ron. Just bear with me one moment, please, as I scribble down on my Eerie notepad. Ron Halliday. There we go. So, I was in touch with the head of the archive, he said. They said they could collect this kind of information because it is part of their remit. I think it's right and proper that it should be kept in Scotland and that we don't lose it. It would be a good database for writers and investigators interested in the supernatural. It certainly would. And in the future, people will be able to see what Scottish society was fascinated by. Records boss Alison Byrne told Mr. Halliday that they will collect his documents if they meet criteria outlined in their stated policies. The data tells of Bloody Mackenzie's haunting in Edinburgh's Greyfriars Kirkyard and the 1979 UFO sighting in East Lothian. We told how Mr. Halliday has theorised Scarabray, the prehistoric settlement built in Orkney 5,000 years ago, may have been created, get this, to ward off alien invasion. He suggested Pictish stones with pictures of folk fleeing away from things could represent an attack from the sky, and rock towers could be signals to attack the attention of visitors from another planet. Who on earth has written this? I'm not arguing with the content, because Mr. Halliday can say what he wants, but that sentence says towers could be signals to attack the attention of visitors. Come on, the Sun, Scottish Sun. You mean attract, surely. And if I flick back up to the top here, they said they could collect this kind of information. I mean, I get things wrong in my videos sometimes, but come on. Scottish Sun, you're a reputable rag. Goodness sake. Now then, What's this? Logs and knockers. Eerie's spoiling us. Yes. Yes, I am indeed. I am indeed. Now then, last one. A third of people in England believe in ghosts, a survey finds. So National Folklore Survey, the first in over 60 years, found people aged 25 to 34, well, excludes me immediately, most likely to believe in the paranormal. Oh. Well, my YouTube metrics and, what's that word? Demographics suggest otherwise. Although we're not all believers as such, are we? We are a discerning bunch. We like the investigation and the what if, don't we? So let's take this at face value. The Guardian, this is. It's the time of year, Halloween, wasn't it, when this was written, when the veil between the living and the dead is at its thinnest, whatever that means, and spirits walk the earth once more. But it appears you are more likely to be visited by a ghost, get this, youngsters, if you are under 35 years old, while spiritual creatures tend to avoid... I can't believe I'm going to read this out. Spiritual creatures tend to avoid those who live in the East Midlands. Anybody in the East Midlands out there, I do apologise, but you're just not interesting to spiritual creatures. I'm sorry about that. New research from the National Folklore Survey has found that across England, more than a third of people believe in ghosts and supernatural beings, but the belief in the paranormal varies according to age and geography. Surely experience would also be another variable in that, but they haven't mentioned that. Led by academics from Sheffield Hallam University. Now, that's, isn't that where, oh gosh, what's his name? The chap who did the Calvine UFO photo expose. Gosh, I cannot remember his name. That's bad of me, isn't it? Anyway, I think he worked there or was affiliated with Sheffield Hallam. And the University of Hertfordshire and the Chapman University in the US. The survey is the first of its kind since blah, blah, blah. Folklore has exploded on social media. Dr. Sophie Parks-Neild, one of the researchers, said, on things like TikTok, there's pagan talk and witch talk. Good Lord. Some young people are really embracing folklore and making it their own. Dr. David Clark, that's his name, Dr. David Clark, another researcher, said that was in part why they wanted to rerun this survey now, adding the previous one was long before internet and social media existed. The influence of film and television, something we wanted to try and capture, he said. We also wanted to make it more multicultural as well, and we've got, I think, 15% ethnic minority interaction with it. Don't know why that really matters. Ipsos UK surveyed 1,730 people over the age of 16 from a panel based on representation of people who live in England, taking into account age, education, gender, ethnicity, religion, region and income, but not experience. Not life experiences of paranormal, I note. That is glaringly absent. In total, 39% of survey respondents said they believed there was life after death. 36% said they believed ghosts or spirits of deceased people existed, and 27% they said they believed it was possible to communicate with the dead. Meanwhile, 16% of respondents reported that they had had supernatural experiences, but almost 1 in 5 had never discussed it with anyone, even family and friends. Those 1 in 5 need to call Eerie's Vault live, don't they? Maybe not tonight, because we don't know if the phones will work. We shall find out. In addition, 45% said that they had experienced déjà vu, while more than a fifth said they had a premonition of the future. And in addition, 45% said they had experienced déjà vu, while more than a fifth said they had a premonition of the future. I couldn't resist doing that. I do apologise. Yes, so we had this poll in the chat, didn't we, some time ago, who believed in ghosts. I cannot remember the outcome of that. I think it was almost half and half, you know. That's what I think. Let me think here. So let me just go back to the chat. Buster Pyle said you do not want to pop a sauroid. Yes, that's quite right, I imagine. I can't imagine it's very good. Let's see, scrolling here. Oh gosh, I've gone very far up here. There are cave paintings with dinosaurs and humans, says Stephen. You're quite right. Yes, there are. Bowls and drinking vessels, this is James, that have dinosaurs with humans riding on their backs, but shown only under ultraviolet light. Really? That's interesting. That's interesting, actually. I would like to see more about that. Liz is in the East Midlands and can confirm a dearth of ghosts and aliens, unless there's loads of them and I just don't interest them. Well, according to the, who was it? The Guardian, maybe they're just bypassing that area. Who knows? Who can say? Greg had a premonition at 9 years of age. Ah, Tools is with us. Hello, Tools. Welcome. You've just missed the Eerie news. News? Sounded like Jethro then, didn't I? Eerie news. Eerie news, that is. But, in short, some dinosaurs have been found. Well, fossils, that is. Bats glow green under ultraviolet light. And ghosts and spiritual creatures seem to avoid the northeast. Was it northeast? Southeast? East Midlands, rather. That's the recap on the news. Yes. Darren's had dreams that have occurred, including Lockerbie. Was that before or after the event? Paul's, how do we know what the artists are trying to paint? Just because they look like that to us, it doesn't mean that's what they were painting. Quite. Yes, if you've got things that look a bit like dinosaurs, you know, maybe they were trying to draw a particularly large cat or something. James had a premonition about an old lady friend bringing me some Moffat toffee. And she did. That's a good premonition, isn't it? Could you have a premonition about me receiving some, what haven't I had for a long time? Lemon meringue pie. Yes, that's what I would like. Lemon meringue pie, I think. Now, we have some emails, but really, I don't know if the phones are going to work. We'll put them on after 10 o'clock because during the 10 o'clock break, it'll give me an opportunity just to mess about with some settings after my attack of the gremlins that we had the other day. So, you may remember John, and we have had several Johns, but last week, John had some experiences read out on the channel. I said it's a very long email, and it is. And we got up to John's third incident. Well, there are another, it looks like 5 incidents to go, so I'm going to read you a couple more of those tonight. So, we've got up to 1992, I think, and John writes, I'm with another brief girlfriend at this time, and we're at the bedside of her gran who is dying. Her family are all bickering. Several of them didn't get on. The whole thing was awful, as they, in my opinion, were all vultures, and they didn't approve of me. But I had only recently visited the old girl, who was Irish, and we got on really well. The other half of the girlfriend's family, those present, were from her mother's Jewish family, the gran being her father's mother. I was holding one of her hands, and my girlfriend was holding the other. I was listening to her breathing slowly, and it became shallow. I'd count the time between breaths until I literally felt her go. I was still counting the seconds between the breaths. I knew she had passed. At that exact moment, the bulb in the room brightened quite a lot, like a flash, for a couple of seconds, and then dimmed to normal. Only myself and my girlfriend witnessed the bulb flaring. Later on, when mentioned, the rest of them all looked at us as if we had 2 heads. It's a silly, insignificant memory, says John, but I thought I'd like to share it with you. And then 1994 or 1995. John says, this is very strange, and at the time very disturbing. I was with who I would go on to marry, with my best friend Chris and his partner Alison at their old dilapidated VW camper van. The thing was fallen to bits, and we'd spent the day in Houghton or Horton and Amberley before driving around, walking around a few woods. We were returning back to Bognor Regis, where we all lived. It was either a late August or very early September. It had been really great weather, and as we turned left off the Petworth Road, signposted Bognor, the air was very still. The trees were looking magnificent, and the grass on the roadside was tall and still. We passed by woods either side of us, and there was one large, lone, dead oak tree at about 30 feet back from the road, with the usual shrubs and brambles under the edges of its spreading branches, with mostly grass between the road and it. But the tree, every single thick branch and limb was shaking. No, not shaking, waving around manically, as if it was alive. Imagine several invisible rugby teams all standing on and bouncing on the boughs. It was impossible. I called out to Averil, my partner, "Did you see that?" And the look on her face, the shock, and her reply told me that she had. We were sat in the back. Chris and Ali were in the front. As I asked Averil, Ali screamed to Chris, "Did you see that?" And yes, he certainly had seen it. So just like Scooby-Doo and co, we packed up and decided to investigate. But Chris, and being burly blokes, tell the kids to go keep further back. I go straight toward the main trunk of the tree to look behind it. I'm looking for ropes and strings. I'm looking for signs of any kids or anything to explain what we saw. Trees don't shake, not in a windless, warm summer. Then I see the tree's boughs, about 2 or 3 o'clock to it, if the front roads... I have to just read that bit again. Then I see the tree's boughs, about 2 to 3 o'clock to the front of the roadside, with the roadside being 6 o'clock and the rear being 12. I see an area of flattened grass big enough for a small one-man tent to be, along with empty tin cans of food, and some rubbish. Chris comes to join me as I'm walking back to the others. Me and Chris are both behind the back of this dead old oak tree, and about 1 foot behind it is evidence that somebody had lit a small fire there. It was warmish, and its ashes were white above grey. Then we both saw something that made us wide-eyed and silent. Animal bones. There were many small animal bones, bird bones, rodent or squirrel bones, fur and feathers. I think most went into the fire, perhaps. At that moment, I later found out, we all experienced the exact same things happening to each of us. Ali screamed, and she ran towards the van, freaking out. I, Chris and Averil were shocked, but tried to remain calm, because all I know is I was literally hit with a feeling of terror and pure evil. I can't explain it. It felt as if we were in a bubble of hate, where time had just stood still. Worse, though, was that I later found out we had all felt it at the same time. And then the van wouldn't start, and both the girls were hysterical, so trying to remain very cool and calm and retain a clear head, Ali, being the smartest who can drive, is told to sit in the driver's seat as we bump-started it eventually into life. It felt as if we were surrounded by sheer evil, as if eyes were watching us. As we drove off, it was as if something huge and black reached up into the sky. Pure evil that hated us. I felt it was a literal tidal wave of black evil reaching miles into the sky, and everything behind us was following us, waiting just to crash down upon us. As I say, I felt and experienced these things that were felt by all 4 of us. And I nearly forgot this next part we laughed at, but it's still weird, says John. In fact, it was very weird, but not scary, like the tree was. After drinks at ours, we walked downstairs to the front door on the pavement to wave Chris and Ali off. There had been a brief hard shower of rain after we had returned home, so we were chatting on the pavement when Chris whispers that something looked odd, because the corner of the road, under the eaves of a building, was a figure who must have must have been huddling from the rain, right? He was staring right at us. We try to make it not obvious that we're watching, aware of him watching us. He didn't move. He didn't turn to look left or right or anything at passing traffic. He just stared intently, unmoving at us. And you've guessed it, he looked like the figure in the dark hat and coat from The Exorcist, or perhaps a Man in Black. Then 10 to 15 minutes later of chatting, we noticed that he's gone. Nobody saw him leave, and pop, the nearest streetlight bulb went out. This happened a few times over about 10 years, where we would be chatting away and pop, a light bulb would blow. That's just a couple more of John's odd experiences. I do have some others, which I'm going to save until next week. It's such a long email that it's a series almost, isn't it, that one? Now, do you remember Billy? So we had a lovely chat with Billy, must be a couple of weeks ago now, who actually had gone into Loch Ness in the sub. Do you remember that chap, Billy? Oh, Billy emailed me sometime, almost a month ago, actually, it must be, and says, as promised, here's my 2 encounters. So here we go. Let's have a look what Billy has sent us. This one's called Alien Grey Encounter. I would like to give you the following information regarding an alien grey encounter I had in the early morning hours of Sunday the 10th of the 10th, 2021. I was living in Derbyshire. The property was built in about the 1800s and it was comprised of 4 floors, a cellar, a ground floor with a kitchen, living room and shop front. Floor 1, 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and floor 2 was just an attic, which was Billy's bedroom. I went to bed on Saturday night at about 10 p.m. I opened my old-style Velux wide, that's a window for anybody who doesn't know what they are, and I left it open all night. I was woken up between 3 and 5 a.m. with a sound I can only explain like 2 budgies cuddled up and talking between themselves. I opened my eyes and the sound instantly stopped, and I realised I was in the company of what I can only describe as an alien grey, around 4 feet in height. Oh, I apologise. This is the story that he told us, isn't it? I'm sorry. I just realised as I'm reading this is the story that he told us, and all the fever and the illness and all the blood tests and the CT scans and all. Do you remember this one? I do. I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself. It happens when you get to a certain age, you know. It happens to us all, I think, unless we've all just had a mass déjà vu experience. Maybe that's what it was. Yes, let's go with that. Eerie didn't just mess up. We've just had a en masse déjà vu experience. That's right. Diane wants to know through email. Diane says, hello, I'm a big fan of your work. Thank you. I just cannot pin down your accent. Would you kindly put me out of my misery and tell me where it hails from? Thank you so much, and carry on the good work. Kind regards, Diane. Well, Diane, isn't it just one of life's greatest unsolved mysteries? The provenance of Leigh Eeries' accent. One thing I will say, and I'll never answer this question, of course, you know I won't, but one thing I will say is that an accent doesn't have to come from an single area. That's as much as I will say about it. Accents don't have to come from one single area, particularly if people have moved around a lot. And that's what I'll give you there on that one. But thank you for the email, Diane. It is the best mystery on here. You're quite right, Darren, yes. And it causes me some real issues in the comment sections. I always know when YouTube has, been a little kind to my latest offering and has bumped it and promoted it a little, because I always get, what the hell sort of accent is this? Comments. And I know once I've got those, this video is going to get well over 5,000 views. I know it is. And that's my yardstick at the moment. And that's what happened on the last video. Where is this? And all of those, oh, yes, it's AI, right? It's AI. Oh, yes, yes, actual individual, perhaps, yes. I never say that because it's a bit of a crap comeback, isn't it? But yes, Jan, hello, Jan, welcome. Sir Nellian, while Bottom Fryer says Newcastle, yes. Well, no. Good guess, but no, nowhere close. Yes, Jan's with us. Hello there. Has anybody else joined us recently? Let's take a look. I don't want to miss anyone out, you see. Fleur, of course. Hello, Fleur. Welcome. I didn't see you there. I think that's everybody else, isn't it? Caught up. Here's one from a Mr. P, who says, you have my permission to read this on your show, but do not mention my name. I shall not. It's been a long, long time, says Mr. P, and memories can be weird things. But I know this happened to me. It's 1959 or so, and I'm about 8 or 9. My older brother and I were walking home from school. I was a step or two behind. We were almost home. I could see our house. I stopped to watch a bug crossing in front of me, and immediately my mum comes running up to me, grabs me and says, "Where have you been? I've been looking all over for you." She looked scared and was in tears. I said, "Mum, I was just here looking at this bug." I looked down and started to point at it, but there was no bug. "No, you weren't," she said. "I've been looking for almost an hour." And the weird thing is, to me, no time had passed at all. Much later, as an adult, I asked my mum about that day, and she said, "Well, of course I remember it. Parents don't forget things like that." Now, what I didn't tell my mum, or many others since, is that shortly after this happened, I had a dream. In the dream, I wake up in a small room on an elevated table. I swing my legs over the edge and sit up. I was about to jump down, but when I looked down, there was an ankle-deep fog on the floor. I hesitate, and just then I notice 3 beings to my left. They were standing in a triangle facing each other, as if in conversation. The instant I see them, one of them turns its head looking straight at me, and then they all start to move toward me, and the dream just ends there. That's it. Oh, and the beings I saw in my dream 65 years ago are what we now call Greys. The show is only a part of the vault. Beyond the broadcast is the archive. And at eeriesvault.com you'll find our growing library of case files, first-hand accounts of the unexplained, written reports from people who lived through something strange. And we need yours. If you've carried a story for years, if you've never had the chance to put it into words, and this is where it belongs. Your report will stand alongside others, building a record that may one day help us see patterns that we cannot see alone. And it's easy. Go to eeriesvault.com, open the Case Files page, and hit the Submit a Case button. Fill in the details and send it on its way. Because strange events pass quickly into silence unless someone records them. Don't let your story vanish. Put it in the vault. From the depths of the vault, this is Eerie's Vault Live. Every Friday at 9 p.m. GMT, the lines are open. UFOs, aliens, ghosts, strange creatures, time slips, encounters you cannot explain. If you've seen something unusual, if something has haunted you, followed you, or simply left you wondering, then this is your place to tell it. Call in and share your story. You can watch the show live on YouTube or stream it directly at eeriesvault.com. And if you're too shy to call, then you can email ahead of the show at eeriesvault@gmail.com, and I will read your story out for you on air. That's Eerie's Vault Live, Friday nights, 9 p.m. GMT. Be part of it. To take part in tonight's show, there are a number of options. You can send a message on WhatsApp, giving a brief outline of what it is you want to discuss, and then wait for my call back. Alternatively, for UK residents, you can call direct on 0141 673 3743 to join the call queue and get through to the live show. And for listeners in the US, you can also call on 929 673 3743. That's 929 Mr. Eerie. That's a New York City number. And if you're too shy to call, then you can always email eeriesvault@gmail.com with your story or your theory, whatever it is you want to talk about, and I can read it out for you on air and state. Remember, this is your show, and I am waiting for your call. Strange encounters, theories about the paranormal, questions about some of the cases I've covered on the channel, whatever it is, as long as it's weird, I want to hear it. Call now to be on Eerie's Vault Live. This is Eerie's Vault Live, and I am your host, Leon Eerie, and this is your #1 stream for the weird, the strange, and the unexplained. That's right, the unexplained. Indeed, quite a catch-all term, isn't it? The unexplained, you know. And as I sit here, gazing out across that dark, dark ocean out there, the wind and the rain lashing against the window pane, it's an evening that's particularly conducive, I think, to the spooky, don't you? Ghost stories, let's say. Spooky, scary stories. That's what we like on this channel. If you have one of those, by all means, call us and tell us all about it. As you heard there, it's nice and easy to do. In the UK, you've got a couple of options. You can call WhatsApp. Well, let's begin with the UK number, which is 0141 673 3743. That's 0141 673 3743. The US number, now this is a New York City number, which is 929 673 3743. You can use that one in the US. If you're outside of New York City, of course, that's 1929 673 3743. 1929 Mr. Eerie, that is, spells that out on your phone keypad. I was very proud of myself when I got those numbers. And if you're outside the US and outside of the UK, you can also get us on WhatsApp, which is 07903 775 899. That's 07903 775 899. The lines are open right now. Whether they work or not is another matter, but I had a good old fiddle during the break there, and I think we're up and running. So tonight, what I want from you is ghost stories. That's what I want tonight. Actual ghost stories. For the last hour that we've got here, give us something that's a spooky story to curl up to in this raging storm outside. By the look of these big trees, some of them are going to go down by morning, and that'll make it difficult to drive out of here. But nevertheless, it is what it is, isn't it? So yes, give us your ghost stories. I'll start you off with, let's think. What have we got? We've got a story about a ghost that got a man killed, actually. If you would like to hear that. I wonder if we have some suitably spooky music that we can play under this. I don't think I have anything to hand. But yes, this is the ghost that got a man killed. So, on a night like this, I'm reminded of a case that stands alone, really, in British history. A haunting that's so feared, so utterly convincing, that it ended with a real corpse on a real street and a man swinging from the gallows. Let's go back to the winter of 1803 to the cold, lamplit streets of Hammersmith. The hauntings began quietly. A white figure drifting across Black Lion Lane, a shape rising out of the churchyard mist, a tall, spectral form with glassy eyes, its jaw hanging open in a death-like gape. Witnesses described it as a shimmering, pale apparition, draped as though in burial cloth. One man fainted dead away when it turned toward him. A coachman whipped his horse into panic when it rose from behind a gravestone, and a pregnant woman collapsed in terror after it followed her down the lane. She would die days later. Night after night, the ghost returned. People no longer walked home after dusk alone. Households barred their shutters. Farmhands refused to enter the fields. And in that dense fog of fear, armed watchmen began patrolling the streets in search of whatever it was that was haunting their parish. On January the 3rd of 1804, an excise officer named Francis Smith took up his shotgun and joined the hunt. The lane was silent. The frost was so thick it dulled the cobblestones, and then, through the murk, a pale figure appeared, drifting forwards. Smith raised his gun. "Who are you? Speak, or I'll shoot." The figure stepped closer, silent, shrouded, white from head to foot. Smith fired. The shot echoed through Hammersmith like the end of the world. The body collapsed onto the frozen road. When the lanterns were brought over, the truth emerged. This ghost was no spirit. It was Thomas Millwood, a plasterer, walking home in his white-covered work clothes, the same luminous outfit that had drawn every previous report of a ghostly figure in the same lane. Smith was tried, found guilty, and sentenced to be hanged, a legal precedent that would haunt British law for more than a century. But here's the part that truly chills the bones. The sightings didn't stop after Millwood's death. Whatever it was that was seen gliding through those winter streets, whatever had chased men to the point of collapse, whatever had terrified the pregnant woman into shock, it wasn't Millwood. He was merely a victim of fear and misunderstanding, and perhaps of something darker that stalked Hammersmith in those cold months. And on a stormy night like this one, as shadows fold themselves into corners and the world beyond the windows turns black, I do sometimes wonder, what was it that was really walking in Black Lion Lane, and why did it return even after the man mistaken for it lay dead? Yes, that's a spooky one for you, isn't it? What do we think to that one, chat? That's what I want to know. I noticed 2 or 3 calls attempting to connect during that story there, so the line is open right now. Before I start on something else, here's your opportunity to call in. Oh, there we go. Here's one. Let's say, hello, caller. You are live on Eerie's Vault. Let me just switch across to this screen and say hello. Good evening. Yes, I can. Who are you and where are you? Magic. Very good. Very interesting. Please go ahead. Of course.
And was walking home as the last bus had gone. On reaching the junction of Chesterfield Road, London Road and Queen's Road, I crossed over to walk down Queen's Road. I had passed the school on the left-hand side and had passed about a third of a used car lot. Now, at that time, after the car lot, there was a pub named the Earl of Oundle and Surrey, or Arundel as we would pronounce it in Sheffield. As I looked down the road, I saw a policeman walking up the road towards the pub. Obviously on his beat, I thought. This seemed to be borne out as he stopped at the pub's main door and tried it to see that it was locked. Now again, at that time, at the other end of the pub, next to the wall of the car lot, there was an archway leading to a short passage which came out as a small yard, at the other end of which was another door. As I watched, he walked under the archway, presumably to check that said door was locked. Now, I had walked about 2/3 of the car lot, and as I continued to walk and watch, he didn't come back out. As I got back to the end of the car lot, he still had not reappeared. Thinking this odd, I thought I'd better see if he was okay. So I went under the arch and along the passage and up to the door, which I saw was padlocked. Looking around, there was no sign of the policeman or anyone else. I had a good look around. He couldn't have gone into the pub, as how would he have padlocked the door? And to the left, there was the wall of the car lot, which was over 2 meters, about 6 feet, in height, and had a broken glass on the top. No way could he have climbed over that. And to the right, there was the pub wall. No windows or other doors or cellar access, as that was to the left of the archway as you went out onto Queen's Road. Scratching my head, I went back out and had a good look around. Now, in addition to Queen's Road, there are 3 other roads in the vicinity. There's Harrington Road, Bramall Lane and Myrtle Road. I went and had a good look up and down Queen's Road and then up and down the other 3 roads, and again there was no sign of him. So I crossed over Queen's Road and turned right to walk up Myrtle Road, continuing my way home. I looked back a couple of times, but still no sign. Now, strangely, while all this was happening, I saw no other traffic or person. The first traffic I saw was when I got to the top of the slope on Myrtle Road, a car and a van, if memory serves me correctly. This could just have been coincidence, but could the Oz factor have been in play? So,
Right, so that Oz factor indeed. So this is something you witnessed personally then?
yes, it is, yes.
Gosh. And so what's your gut feeling on what it was? So you've explained what happened. What's your gut feeling about what you saw?
Well, I think probably it was seemed to be some sort of apparition. I tend to think because obviously, perhaps because I'm thinking back, I think his uniform seemed to me to be quite old, not modern in any way. So I'm thinking if he was some sort of apparition which appeared and then went about a sort of its usual motion and rhythm, if you like, and its repetition of those at times, perhaps.
Certainly.
And then just disappeared once it was over.
Of course, it certainly sounds like that, doesn't it? Was there any noise associated with it?
No, but that's another thing, you see, like I was saying about the Oz factor. There was no noise either, I can remember.
So the Oz, tell us about the Oz factor then, for people who might not know.
All right. Yes, well, I think this was originally mooted by Jenny Randolph.
Yes, you're quite right, yep.
Yes, UFO writer. And the Oz factor is a thing, it's named for the Wizard of Oz. It's about when events are happening, paranormal events are happening. There's no sound and there's no one about and no cars or vehicles on the road and things like that. It's actually something that's happened to me before, actually, which I have sometime I might say about.
Oh, really? Oh, tell us about that as well, by all means.
Oh, okay.
Caught you by surprise now.
Yes, I've written that one down. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Well, then I'll tell you, briefly anyway. Excuse me. I used to live in Bristol because I did my studies down in Bristol. And And I was coming from where I was living, and I was going to the chip shop for my dinner. And I was walking down one road, which was sort of on the left from where I used to live. And I walked down there. And as I walked down this road, I could see a glow, a bright glow over the rooftops, over on the next road, which is down to the right as you go down. And so I think, what is that? You know, I wonder what it, you know, I think you see, because you normally don't see things. It wasn't the moon.
Sure.
I could tell the moon. It wasn't the moon. It was definitely just a single glow. No, there's nothing in the middle of it or anything like that, as I could see at the time. So I walked on down, keeping an eye on it, until I got down to the bottom of the road, and I turned right to walk down towards the chip shop. And it was still there. I was looking at it, it was still there, and it was on the right-hand side of the road, and then above the trees, above the roof, of the house over the other side. And then, strangely, then, as I walked down a little bit longer, it moved from there, seemingly in the wink of an eye, over to the top of the roof on the other side of which was near me. And at this point, I was by a tree and a lamppost, and a house on the other side, and it was above that house to my right. Left as I was going down, yeah. And it was above the top, and at this point, the glow disappeared, and in its place was what you would call probably a textbook flying saucer.
Oh.
On there, and it was probably about 30 feet in diameter. I mean, these are approximate.
Yeah.
Guesses, you know, probably around 30 feet in diameter, and probably maybe about 10, 12 feet from bottom to top. And at that point, then it came up away from the roof and then moved towards me, and then circled around me. I went back to where it was before, on top of the roof. Stayed there for a minute or so, and then it glowed. The light came back on, and it glowed back up again, really, really bright. And then it took off to the southeast, across Bristol, across the city, towards Bedminster, and then it disappeared.
Wow. Do you think it was aware of you particularly, or just happened to be where you were?
Well, it could be a bit of both, really. I think it probably wasn't until I got close to it. And then it would seem to, I think maybe it noticed me.
Yeah.
And then decided to have a look at me, to have a closer look.
Goodness, you may have been scanned. Yeah, yeah.
Scanned, yes, indeed. Yeah, it's highly possible.
Quite. Goodness me, that's a pretty close encounter, isn't it?
It is, yes, definitely.
It really is. Well,
definitely. Sorry, I was just saying, yes, probably at least of the second kind.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. More Oz factor. And again, did you get that sort of bubble feeling?
Yes, yes, exactly the same as I had with the policeman. Yeah.
Incredible, isn't it? Gosh, well, I thank you very much indeed for taking the step and giving us a call. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. I've enjoyed it.
Fabulous stories.
I enjoy your programme. It's very good.
Wonderful. That's great to know. Thank you ever so much.
Okay. No problem. Bye-bye.
Cheerio. Good night.
Good night.
There we are. Ladies and gentlemen, it's that easy. Thank you very much indeed for that call. Two great encounters there. What do we think to that then, the Oz factor? So this is the uncanny, otherworldly silence that people experience when they are in the presence, it seems, of something that we would describe as high strangeness, or the other, as it were. You can apply this to old tales of, fairy rings. You can apply this to abduction or contactee scenarios for alien entities and craft. You can apply this to cryptid sightings where everything goes quiet. Even the crickets stop making noise and the birds stop chirping just prior to somebody seeing, I don't know, a Bigfoot or something of that nature. Certainly is a documented phenomenon, and the caller was quite right. It's Jenny Randalls who coined that phrase. Do you know, I'd love to speak to Jenny Randalls. I really would. Must be a way of finding some contact information for her. But yes, there you go. It's nice and easy to call in 0141 673 3743. That's the UK number. And in the US, because I know we've got some US people out there, you got 929 Mr. Eerie, or that's the New York City. And outside of New York City, it's 1929 Mr. Eerie. So some success with the phones there. Eventually, you were able to hear the caller. Thankfully, it wasn't cut off too much, so you got the good gist of that one, didn't you? So here is the next ghost story for you tonight, and this is the witch child of Socky, Scotland. This case was the 1960s, and it's the Socky witch child. And in the small mining village of Socky, when an 11-year-old girl named Virginia Campbell arrived from Ireland to live with her aunt and uncle, let me just switch this back here, to live with her aunt and uncle, she was shy, soft-spoken, and the kind of child who sort of kept to the edges of classrooms and didn't really get involved with people. But within days of her arrival, strange things began to happen at school. During a lesson, as the teacher turned to write on the board, the children screamed. Virginia's desk lid had snapped open and slammed shut violently, all of its own accord. The teacher tried to push it down. It fought against her hand, trembling under a force that she couldn't see. The headmaster was called. He watched it do the exact same thing. Whatever began in that classroom was reported to education authorities. It was written down. It was recorded. It also followed Virginia home. In the quiet house on Park Crescent, knocks erupted inside the walls, not random knocks, but seemingly responsive, almost as if they were answering questions. Furniture shook. Bedclothes ripped themselves away from the child. A heavy sideboard shuddered so violently that neighbours came running, thinking something had collided with the house. The local doctor, a Dr. Logan, was summoned. He knelt beside the girl's bed as she cried and saw with his own eyes the pillow beneath her head compress as though pressed by a single finger. Then it slid, rolling gently, as though something was moving underneath the fabric. He stated publicly that no human hand was touching it. One night, the neighbours heard Virginia gasp. They rushed in to find her being dragged across the bed by an invisible force. A neighbour grabbed her arm. The force pulled both of them. It was at this point that Virginia began whispering to the adults around her. "It's a boy. He's angry. He doesn't want me here." The local minister was finally called. A quiet man, reluctant to involve himself in anything sensational, but that night, as he prayed, the house erupted. Banging on the walls, sudden cold, the bed shaking enough to rattle the frame. Virginia cried out that the boy was standing in the corner. And then, just as suddenly, all the activity stopped. The house fell silent. It was only years later that some records actually surfaced. A young boy, a relative of the family, had passed away in that very house. Virginia had been sleeping in his old room. Some stories are unfinished, and some, like this one, are more than legends. These are living memories of people who went through something weird. Oof. No, thank you. Not for me. I don't fancy any of that at all. Really, estate agents should put things like that on, on the thing in the window. When you're looking at a house in the window, it shows you how old I am, doesn't it? When you're on Rightmove, I mean, like the hip kids. There really should be a number of bedrooms, 3, number of bathrooms, 2, number of restless spirits, 0. And they're the ones that you probably sell. Although some of us might like to buy one that's got something in it, might we? Not me. Maybe you guys. Here, there's a question for you. Would you? Let's put this in a poll in a minute. Caller, I will answer in just a second. Would you buy a house knowing it was haunted? Good afternoon. Good evening, even. You're on Eerie's Vault Live.
Good evening, Eerie. How are you?
Good evening. I'm well. How are you?
Doing very well. I do have a spooky tale that you might be interested in.
Tell me a ghost story.
During the 1900s, there was a big farm. This farm had one little girl living on it. She lived with her parents, and she was very, very happy. She also had a little friend who would come and play with her occasionally. But one day, the 2 girls were found mysteriously murdered. Everybody in the area was shocked. They didn't know what happened to these girls. Nobody knew who did this. The only person who they could find was a man who they could not prove had done it. And that man was hanged. Hanged until he passed away. But that's not the end of the story. My grandmother had been walking along with nobody with her. She was just walking to her workplace and back when she saw a little girl walking along a deserted lane that everybody did. Everybody walked along this lane. She watched the little girl and she looked lovely, as though she had a nice little pinafore on. She looked clean, she looked tidy, she looked like the most human girl in the world. But as my grandmother stopped to watch, she started to realize that this girl was transparent. And as my grandmother watched, the girl walked along, gliding along until she reached a big gate with a stile which you get over. Now, this little girl didn't think about this. She glided through the gate, down the lane, and disappeared in front of my grandmother's eyes. So my grandmother decided that she was going to run to work and decided not to tell anyone until she got home and told my grandfather that she'd seen this girl. And that's a story which she used to tell us on dark, spooky nights.
Gosh, that was a very creepy story, Fleur.
There's also another one which I can tell.
Let's have one more then. Go on. Yeah.
One more. my sister and my former brother-in-law and Wednesday, my niece, lived in a 3-bedroom house. And my sister was at work, my brother-in-law was always out too. And Wednesday would come home and she would lock the door. And whenever she got in, she would see somebody standing on the top of the stairs. So Wednesday decided that she would not go anywhere near the stairs unless my sister and my brother-in-law were there. And she would sit in the living room and she would hear footsteps along the landing, creaking, the sounds of what she said was slippers walking along. She would also hear the sound of water running and alarms or lights being turned on and off. And when she went to investigate, there was nothing there. We couldn't think of any explanation. And to this day, she still gets quite the house. And recently we learned that a lady lost her life there. She passed away in the house. And we think it's her ghost going along, doing what she did when she was alive. I hope you like those stories.
Oh gosh, I did. Thank you very, very much for those.
Don't have nightmares, everyone.
Yes, don't have nightmares. Fleur, thank you very much indeed.
No problem. I'm glad you like those spooky stories.
Very good,
Take
thank
care.
you. Cheerio.
Take care, Eerie.
Bye-bye. Quite the storyteller, actually, our Fleur. Gosh. So haunted streets, seeing a ghost girl run through a turnstile is one thing, and see the other one, seeing things at the top of the stairs. No, thank you. Or at the bottom of the stairs, or in fact on the stairs. It's a no from me. I don't want to see things like that in my life. Although I have, many moons ago, had similar experiences. Maybe I'll save those for another day. But yes, let's look at the poll. So 41% of you would not buy a house if you knew it was haunted. I'm with you on that. 37% of you, 37% have said yes, you would. And 22% have said, well, how much are we talking? Yes, that would be my first. How much is the house? Is it going to be beneficial? You know, and Buster says he'd feel uncomfortable on the toilet if ghosts were watching. Yes, so would I. Purple Pipkin, I like this, says it depends on the ghost. If it likes tidying up, then I'm all in. Yes, of course. That would make a difference, wouldn't it? It certainly would. What's this talk of Bigfoot gliding? Oh, Aching Plum says, I don't mind a bear full of spirits. I'm not so sure a house full of ghosts. Yes. Me neither. I don't think I'd like that. Here, what's this then? Stephen says, I've heard it said that Bigfoot do that gliding effect. And James follows this with yes. Bigfoot or Sasquatch have been seen sometimes as they have a shimmering force field around them, like that alien in that X-Files episode. Well, you know me, I can talk Bigfoot until the cows come home, or until the cowman of Copalis Beach comes home. If anybody knows that particular Bigfoot story, that's a pretty good one. Yes, I won't reel off on Bigfoot just yet, but gosh, there are some great Bigfoot stories. I must speak to some of these investigators who go around looking for UK's Bigfoot. I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but the last 5 months seem to have passed in a week. I cannot find time to just even sit down and make a list of stuff to do at the moment. Very, very, what's the word? Fast and furious at the moment, I think. But I would like to get some more interviews on the programme. Jenny Randall, certainly. We should speak to Ron Halliday, I think. But what do you think about the concept? And look at that now. Let's talk about coincidences and synchronicities here. Stephen Truthseeker has just asked us, was just mentioned what was going to be the end of my next sentence posed as a question to you guys. Do you think time is getting faster? Do you think time is speeding up? And do you think the reason, well, let me not put words in your mouth. There's a call that I'd like from somebody. I'd like to chat to somebody about, do you think time is speeding up? And if so, why? The quickening, yes indeed. That's a good name for it, the quickening. I just feel that like I say, to me, last week it was August, and now it's nearly Christmas. What on earth is going on? This is what I want to know. Time seems to pass more quickly as we get older, says Rudolph. You're quite right. It certainly does. And I think that, isn't there some sort of psychological proposition on that we have already lived? So those of us who may have already lived half of our lives are more sort of predisposed, I don't know, mentally to be susceptible to the realization that there may not, and I don't want to upset anybody here, but there may not be as much in front of us as there is behind us. And therefore, it's like, when you're driving home from somewhere real far away, especially when you were a kid. See if you can remember this. When you were a kid and you went on holiday, even if you went out of town, and on the way back, you'd be tired and you'd be sleeping, maybe you were on the bus, maybe you were on the train, maybe you were lucky enough back then to have a car, and, you're travelling back and it seems forever. But then as soon as you get close to home and you recognise where you are, you wake up. And the time it takes to then get home is very quick. Not in any short measure because you're actually closer to home, I imagine, but the sensation of that time passing seems to be a lot faster. It feels like that, in a way. Just, how did I get to this age? Where has this year gone? Why has Ozzy Osbourne died? What's happening? I keep saying I tend to not like saying but I can remember when school days lasted forever and holidays flew by, said Aching Plums. That's right. Greg says work meetings go on forever. I bet they do. Yes, Ozzy was knackered, you're right. But, you realise that age now, a lot of the people we grew up with now are that age, like all those wrestlers from the 90s and all of that. Yes. I saw a quote yesterday that was something along the lines of, you cannot add more time to your life, therefore, why not add more life to your time? I liked that. I did like that. Who's this saying? Miller the Lurkness Monster X, what a brilliant name. Hello there and welcome to the show. Who says, I heard that routine makes time seem faster because the brain stores fewer memories of repetitive events, making time feel like it passed quickly. Yes, I think I have seen that, and I think that sort of ties into that quote then, doesn't it? You cannot add more time to your life, therefore add more life to your time. And if you experience less new things as you get older, and it's a natural thing, you know, that happens, the sheer passage of time means we get older. And if we restrict ourselves to experiencing only the same things again and again and again, then that time is not fulfilled. And in a sense, we are going through the motions. Whereas if we experience loads of new things, then the supposition that the sense of time passing is slower purely because of these new neural connections being formed in the brain and the new experience of life. But that said, this year I've done a hell of a lot of new stuff, I have to say. And it's still flown by. Maybe having too much stuff to do is also why time flies. I rather think it's got something to do with loose ends myself. And I may have picked this up again from reading one of the many books that I read, but I tend to think it's loose ends. If you have a lot of unfinished things, then your sense of progression over time isn't really fulfilled, is it? You know, I mean, I can have, I don't know, a script a week. I could do one script every week and edit one video every week, right? Fine. I can keep doing that. But in the background, I might have, you know what, I'd like to write a book. I'd love to write the Eeries Vault book. But I can't because I don't really have the time at the moment. And the sense of that unfinished thing seems to make it feel like time is running away from me, more than it may be. I'm not sure. Buster says, we're all worried about time left getting short, but don't. It may be that the next thing after life may well be friggin' amazing. Don't worry. Now there's another bit of food for thought, isn't it? What happens after this? What happens after this? I certainly hope there is no physical body after this, because mine's knackered, to be honest with you. Mine's letting me down often. But what would it feel like being a spirit, one wonders? Steadbot says, loose ends, you're right, Eerie. TV shows have cliffhangers because as humans we remember unresolved things more readily than things that are solved or have closure. There you go. How's about that? And Tools says a little bit of boredom can be a good thing. And I agree. I think that finding the balance of feeling as though you were achieving something for the creative amongst us, which I would put a large wager on the greater percentage of you guys right now out there being creative people. I mean, if you're interested in all of this stuff, you must well be. Yes. I've lost my trail of thought there. Eerie, we will be at a different energy frequency. There we go. MW says, how old are you, Eerie? I'm as old as my tongue and just a bit older than my teeth, my dear. That's how old I am. I'm not old enough to have the knackered old body that I've got. That much I will tell you. Yes. We're hitting the last 10 minutes of the show, you guys. We've got into philosophical territory, haven't we? Don't forget, it's easy easy to get on a show. Here, again, is how to do it. To take part in tonight's show, there are a number of options. You can send a message on WhatsApp, giving a brief outline of what it is you want to discuss, and then wait for my call back. Alternatively, for UK residents, you can call direct on 0141 673 3743 to join the call queue and get through to the live show. And for listeners in the US, you can also call on 929 673 3743. That's 929 Mr. Eerie. That's a New York City number. And if you're too shy to call, then you can always email eeriesvault@gmail.com with your story or your theory, whatever it is you want to talk about, and I can read it out for you on air and state. Remember, this is your show, and I am waiting for your call. Strange encounters, theories about the paranormal, questions about some of the cases I've covered on the channel, whatever it is, as long as it's weird, I want to hear it. Call now to be on Eerie's Vault Live. This is Eerie's Vault Live, and I am your host, Leon Eerie, and this is your number one stream for the weird, the strange, and the unexplained. That's right, the unexplained. And Pill Collins has dropped something in chat that says I must call in one week regarding the white rabbit of Crank. It feels like this week might be the week, Pill. To me. It's your choice entirely, of course, but that seems pretty intriguing. The White Rabbit of Crank. Do I know what that is? I don't think I do. No, MW is from Australia. Welcome, listeners. We've got listeners from Australia, listeners from LA, listeners from all around the United Kingdom. Isn't it wonderful that we can all get together like this and talk about all this convoluted stuff to which none of us really have an answer? But gosh, isn't it good fun just talking about it? I think so. I enjoy these streams, as they call them, shows. I really do. Now then, what's Blazer saying that's interesting? I can't find it. The experiment they did when somebody died, and a few seconds later they were 10 grams lighter, like maybe the soul leaving the body. Goodness me. Do we have a soul? That's a poll. It also rhymes, doesn't it? Let's say. Do we have a soul? I couldn't even begin to describe what a soul is. What is it? You tell me. There's another poll for you tonight. Do we have a soul? And do animals have souls? Who knows? The concept of the soul is a strange thing because we are clearly biological, living, breathing, neurologically controlled and centered beings. We have thoughts. We have hopes, we have dreams. We are essentially a nervous system in a body. But is there a spirit inside us? That's what I'm asking, I think. Is there a spirit, and is it separate to what is the brain that I am using right now to formulate this convoluted sentence? Is there a spirit that is separate to this thinking, pattern-seeking organ in my head? There is, of course, a theory that we are containers for souls, and that our passing away is merely a harvesting of a soul which I forget what the theory is, alien overlords or something, like to collect. They are the farmers and we are the gardeners or something like that. We're all souls that in this dimension, in the biological vessel that works through the brain, we are all souls. We are eternal, says James. That is an interesting take. Birds and Blades, hello there, Birds and Blades, welcome to the show, says all animals go to heaven. So yes, they have souls too. W.M. Steadbot says, I think we are vessels for souls to allow the universe to experience itself as individuals. That is an incredible theory. That's an incredible theory. We are vessels for souls that allow this universe to experience itself. That's just blown my mind. How fantastic. Now that's worth a call. I'd love to chat about that. Animals are more intelligent than science is able to measure. I absolutely think so. I really do. I think that, they clearly have emotions, for a start. They clearly have intelligence in terms of problem solving and working together. But, that great underlying thing that ties us and the animals together. I mean, we all have hearts, we all have brains, we all mostly have symmetrical limbs, don't we? We all have digestive systems, we all require oxygen to breathe, and even the ones that are underwater require oxygen filtration through gills and things like that. Isn't it odd that we are pretty much almost just the same recipe, just some left in the oven a bit longer, like humans left in the oven longer than, I don't know, the gorilla or something. And by the oven, of course, I mean the, what do we call it? The evolutionary oven, I suppose. Although, I will admit I'm not sure about evolution myself. We are also incredibly different, you see. Incredibly different to the animals. Or do we just think we are? Who knows? How's the poll going there? Do we have a soul? 92% of you say yes. And 8% of you say, I have no idea. I guess we'll find out. I guess we will. 92% of you think we have a soul. And that is, frankly, an amazing number. That, I assume then, suggests that you also believe, therefore, there is something after this. Is it a reckoning? Is it an embrace? Is it a congratulatory reception when we get there? I wonder what it is. Will those that we've lost be there as we knew them? Will we be elsewhere alone? What incredible questions require some incredible answers, don't they? Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, I have none. Greg says transplant recipients sometimes take on the skills of the donor. Could that be part of the soul? Gosh, imagine that. Imagine having a hand transplant and you become a world-class pianist. That'd be amazing, wouldn't it? We've had a DNA change, I think so, Stephen. I really do. James Glass says, when I left my body in the German body, I could see, hear, and think. That's an out-of-body experience, isn't it? Gosh. What a strange world. What a strange world. W.M. Steadbot, yes, please do discuss your theories on next week's stream. What you said there, I've just hit the microphone with my elbow. I hope that didn't sound horrific. What you said there, what was it? It was that we are containers for the souls that allow the universe to express and experience itself as individuals. It's blown my mind. It really has. I think we'll leave it tonight on that pretty amazing theory. I love that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again, and thank you to the callers tonight, and to all the people who have emailed in and whose stories I have read, and of course to you all in the chat, beavering away there, chatting to each other in the community that we're building together. Thank you all so much. It's late. It's stormy outside, and as Fleur says, try not to have nightmares. Good night.